Welcome back, and thank you for tuning in to Midnight Affairs Tales. We appreciate every single one of you. We'd love to know what part of the world you are watching from right now. Let us know in the comments. Now, let's dive into today's story, Chapter 1. The text that broke the silence. The living room was quiet. Too quiet. Royce Maddox stood just inside the doorway of his own home, boots still dusted from the tarmac, gear bag slung over his shoulder. No welcome home. No smile. Just the low hum of the fridge and the sound of his own heartbeat ticking in his ears. Then he heard it. Her phone. Buzzing. He stepped toward the kitchen counter where it sat face up, unlocked. A message preview flashed across the screen. I missed last night already. You still smell like him, but I did not mind. Royce did not move. Not right away. His hands, calloused from years of field work, curled slowly into fists. His jaw locked tight, but his face stayed calm. Dead calm. The name at the top of the message, Trent Wallace. His old classmate. A man he had once pulled out of a drunken bar fight, back in high school. A man who had shaken his hand the night he and Marla got married. Royce picked up the phone. Scrolled. The rest of the conversation unfolded like a slow knife to the ribs. Photos, inside jokes, things he could not unsee. 2 years. Maybe more. His breath was shallow. But he did not scream. He did not throw the phone. He just placed it down gently. Then he walked into the living room and sat on the edge of the couch. Elbows on knees. Head low. He had survived ambushes. Lost brothers. Been shot at. But this was different. This was war at home. The front door opened. Marla walked in, grocery bags in hand. She looked up and smiled faintly. You are back early, Royce smiled back. Yeah. Surprise. The real surprise was coming. But not today. Why would I explode? He thought, when silence is so much more dangerous. Wait. If this story gave you chills or made you think twice about trust, don't just scroll away. Hit that like button to support the channel, and subscribe if you never want to miss another jaw-dropping tale. We drop new stories every week that'll leave you speechless. Join the family, because here, every story hits different now. Let's dive back into the story. 3 nights later, Royce watched the footage. He had installed the cameras before his last deployment, telling Marla it was for security. She had agreed without hesitation. Now he sat in his garage, alone with a laptop and a 6-month archive. What he found made his blood run cold. There she was, on the couch they picked together. In the kitchen he built with his bare hands. Laughing, louder than she ever laughed with him. Trent stood behind her, shirtless, pouring wine like he owned the place. Like he belonged. They joked. They kissed. Then they disappeared down the hallway. The bedroom. Royce paused the video. He stared at the screen. One still image, Marla's hand on Trent's chest, her mouth open mid-laugh. She had not looked at Royce like that in years. He did not blink. He just clicked play again. By the 3rd recording, Trent was bringing groceries. Sleeping over. Using Royce's robe. Royce's damn robe. Later, Royce went inside. Marla was cooking dinner. The air smelled like garlic and betrayal. How was your day? She asked, not even turning around. Quiet, he replied. She chuckled. Yeah, things are kind of boring lately, huh? He leaned against the wall, arms crossed. I do not mind boring. It gives people time to think. She glanced over her shoulder, smiling. That sounded intense. Roy smiled back. Maybe it is. He ate dinner without flinching. He washed the dishes after. And when she kissed him goodnight, he kissed her back. Because letting her feel safe was step 1. She was not just cheating. She was celebrating it. That was the part that cut deepest. But the best part? She thought he still had no idea. Royce always knew how to track a target. He just never thought he would use those skills in his own home. During the day, he played the quiet husband. At night, he became something else entirely. He pulled bank records, credit card statements, GPS logs from her phone, all synced to the home system, all right there in plain sight. She had been clever, but not careful. Dinner charges at places they had never been. Hotel stays during weekends she claimed to be volunteering. Charges at boutiques he had never seen the bags from. It all lined up. Deployment was the perfect cover. He was gone for months. She had no reason to hide well. Royce built a wall in the garage, literally. Behind it, he set up a board. Names, dates, receipts, screenshots. A timeline of betrayal. It looked like an op file. Because it was. Marla had taken his absence as weakness. She did not know absence had taught him how to wait, how to watch. And Trent? He was just as reckless. Royce followed him one afternoon. Watched him pick up another woman at a bar in Raleigh. Watched them disappear together. This was not just an affair, it was a pattern. He recorded everything. That night, Marla crawled into bed beside him. She sighed like life was heavy. "I am glad you are back," she whispered. "Yeah," Royce said. "Me too." He stared at the ceiling long after she slept, his mind grinding through every angle. Divorce? That was coming. But it would be her idea. Let her think she owned the next move. Let her dig her own grave. This was not about getting even. This was about ending it completely, and making sure they never saw it coming. Royce had seen men explode. He had watched commanders break under pressure, soldiers scream when silence would have saved their lives. He would not be one of them. Marla deserved to see none of his rage. No thrown dishes. No raised voice. Only calm. The kind of calm that said, "You are already gone. You just do not know it yet." She was scrolling her phone in bed that night, feet tucked under the blanket like it was just another Tuesday. Royce stepped out of the bathroom, towel draped around his neck, eyes steady. "You know what I have been thinking about lately?" he asked. She looked up. "What?" "How people change when no one is watching." She tilted her head, smiling like he had quoted something from a movie. "That is deep." He watched her for a beat too long. "Yeah, guess I have had a lot of time to think." He climbed into bed beside her, not touching. She returned to her screen, unaware of the minefield beneath her feet. Royce knew the time for reaction had passed. What came next would be methodical. Each piece needed to fall in place on its own, without force. She would walk straight into the trap, eyes wide open. Downstairs, the old printer hummed softly in the garage. Harper had sent the first dump. Text logs, voicemail backups, encrypted files from Trent's cloud. Everything they had said about him. Everything they had planned. They joked about selling the house. About draining the joint account before the divorce. About leaving Royce with nothing but memories and a toothbrush. He saved it all. Revenge was not just about justice anymore. It was about control. About using their arrogance against them. And they were practically handing him the weapon. The next morning, Marla sat at the kitchen table sipping green tea like nothing was wrong. Royce joined her, handed her a folded sheet of paper. "What is this?" she asked, unfolding it. "Just a few updates for the lawyer. Might speed things up." Marla blinked. "You already talked to her?" Royce shrugged. "You wanted the divorce. I figured I would help you out." She paused. That was not how she expected it to go. No anger. No fight. Just smooth acceptance. It threw her off balance, and Royce could see it in her eyes. "I mean, yeah, I guess that makes sense," she said. "Great," he replied, sipping his coffee. "Glad we are on the same page." The papers were clean, generic, but in them, Royce had slipped a clause, quietly reviewed by Ms. Deschamps, that preserved his parental standing, protected his pension, and limited her claim to spousal support. Marla skimmed it too casually. "Looks fine to me," she said, signing. Royce smiled. She had no idea what she had just walked into. That night, Harper texted him a decrypted copy of a document Marla had tried to erase, a secret savings account. $26,000. Hidden. Accumulated while Royce had been overseas, thinking he was building a family. "She is prepping to run," Harper wrote. "Let her," Royce replied. "Let her think she had won. That he was just some fool who wanted peace and a clean split. Let her keep underestimating him." Every lie made her weaker. He saved the signed forms in a red folder and placed them in the wall safe behind a row of paint cans. One day, those papers would do more damage than any bullet he had ever fired, and she would have signed her own collapse with a smile on her face. The office smelled like sandalwood and soft lies. Royce sat across from Marla on the worn leather couch, hands folded in his lap. The therapist, a woman in her early 50s named Dr. Laney, had a warm tone and kind eyes. But she was already leaning toward the wrong side. "She says you seem distant," Dr. Laney said gently. Royce nodded. "I guess I have been. Combat does that sometimes." Marla's voice came soft, almost sweet. "I just want to reconnect." "But he shuts me out." He glanced at her. Her eyes shimmered with pretend sadness. She had trained for this moment, practiced these lines in the mirror. "She said she wanted space before I deployed," Royce said calmly. "And now that I am back, I am just respecting that." Dr. Laney scribbled something down. "That is interesting. Can you both speak honestly about what you want?" Royce turned to Marla. "Sure. What do you want?" Marla hesitated, then put on a brave, trembling voice. "I want to start fresh, with honesty." Royce almost laughed. Almost. But his face gave nothing away. "I want honesty too," he said. "From both of us." A silent moment passed. Dr. Laney shifted in her chair, sensing something off. But she did not know enough. She did not know Royce had a recorder in his sock, or that every word said today was going into a growing file. Outside, the rain tapped against the windows like it was counting down. Later that night, Harper texted him the audio transcription. "You nailed it," she wrote. "Therapist sees you as stable. Her? Inconsistent." Royce stared at the screen, then deleted the message. They were building a case, piece by piece, scene by scene. And no one, not Marla, not Trent, not the therapist, would see the final act coming. It had been 9 days since Royce had landed. 9 days of silence, smiles, and strategy. Trent Wallace. The name alone made Royce's stomach tighten. Not because of fear, but because of what that man represented. Entitlement. Greed. The kind of smugness that only came from getting away with something for far too long. Royce had seen his type before. Officers who barked orders, but never bled. Men who bought their way into respect instead of earning it. He watched from across the street as Trent stepped out of his black Escalade, adjusting the cuffs on his tailored blazer. Same smug grin. Same perfectly placed ego. Trent ran a mid-sized real estate firm downtown, Wallace Property Group. On paper, successful. But Harper's background dig had revealed the cracks. 2 former employees had filed lawsuits. Both settled quietly. Tax discrepancies going back for years. A hidden property in Texas listed under a shell company. And a pattern of financial mismanagement masked by showmanship. Royce jotted notes inside a black notebook resting on his dashboard. No cameras today. Just old-school observation. Trent walked into a cafe, greeted by a waitress with a little too much enthusiasm. She laughed at his jokes, lingered at the table. Royce did not need to hear the conversation. He saw everything in their eyes. He watched how Trent leaned in, how his hand grazed hers as she poured coffee. A predator disguised in charm. So it was not just Marla. Royce tightened his grip on the steering wheel. Not out of jealousy, but clarity. This was not a love affair. It was a pattern. Marla was not special to Trent. She was convenient. Disposable. That made the betrayal worse. Back at home, Marla was on the phone, voice sweet and hushed as Royce entered. He kissed her forehead. Going out. She blinked, startled. Just finishing a call with Lauren. He smiled. Say hi for me. She nodded awkwardly, turning her back. He watched her walk away, already thinking 3 moves ahead. The next morning, Royce stood at the edge of his daughter's bed, watching her sleep. Her hair was tangled in every direction. One arm hung off the side of the mattress, her favorite stuffed turtle pressed against her cheek. He crouched down and gently tucked the blanket around her. "You okay, Peanut?" he whispered. She stirred but did not wake. Royce just sat there a moment longer, elbows resting on his knees. She had no idea what was happening. No clue that the woman she called Mommy had used her as a pawn. That Trent had held her, fed her, maybe even tried to play father while Royce was risking his life on foreign soil. But the truth was, Marla was not her biological mother. The embryo had been donated. Royce had made the call alone after their second miscarriage. He had studied the paperwork, signed the forms, and kept quiet. She had been spiraling, unstable. He had made the decision to protect what they could still have. And it had worked. The birth had brought light back into the home. For a while. But now that light was being used against him. Royce felt a heavy breath push through his chest. This little girl was everything. His reason. His anchor. He would burn down the world before letting Marla or Trent steal her future. Later that day, Marla mentioned signing the custody agreement. It will be easier on her, she said while stirring coffee. She will stay here with me mostly. You can get her every other weekend. Royce smiled softly. If that is what you think is best. He had already filed the paperwork to challenge it. Quietly. Strategically. With DNA test results included. She thought she was a mother by default. She was about to learn that motherhood was earned. Marla was glowing. She walked lighter. Smiled more. Cooked dinner like she was already free. Royce played along. Charming, soft-spoken, agreeable. The perfect ex-husband. She had no idea she was walking into her own trap. Have you thought about where you are moving? She asked one evening, handing him a glass of water. Yeah, he replied, looking at a few places closer to base. That is good. You will need something low maintenance, being on your own. He sipped slowly. That is true. She smiled, turned her attention to her phone, texting someone with fingers too fast, too eager. Royce leaned back in his chair, watching her like a man studying a wildfire. Beautiful from afar, destructive up close. That night, after she went to sleep, he entered the garage. The board behind the false wall had grown. Photos, messages, legal notes, financial statements. And in the center, a printed copy of the divorce agreement she had signed without reading. Every clause was circled, every word legally tight. She had given up so much, thinking he was too broken to fight. He picked up a pen and drew a red line beneath one line in bold. The child, as designated under full custodial agreement, is to remain with the father pending all future court proceedings. She had signed that. Willingly. He smiled for the first time in days. Across the room, Harper's laptop pinged. Another file recovered, this one a voicemail. Marla talking to Trent. He is clueless. Still walking around here like a puppy. After the divorce clears, we will file to sell the house. Everything will be split 50-50. And then we are out. Royce hit play again. And again. She truly believed he was too dumb, too numb, too kind to do anything. That was her first and final mistake. The rumors started a week after Royce moved into the temporary rental. The neighbors whispered. Marla dropped comments at PDA meetings. Her version of the story spread fast. Royce was distant. Royce was depressed. Royce was broken. He let them believe it. He parked crooked in the driveway. Forgot to trim the hedge. Wore old sweatpants to school drop-off. And when asked how he was doing, he said, one day at a time, and kept walking. At the gym, he stopped training publicly. No more heavy lifts. No more sparring. Just slow treadmill walks, headphones in, hood pulled low. But behind closed doors? That was a different story. Every morning at 4:30 a.m., Royce trained in silence. Weights, bag work, shadowboxing. Discipline was still there, just buried under the surface. Controlled, focused. The world thought he was collapsing. He was actually sharpening. Marla dropped off their daughter on a Saturday morning, wearing a tight dress, freshly done hair. She smiled like she had already moved on. She has been cranky this week, she said casually. Lots of attitude. Royce knelt, scooped up the little girl. She just needs peace. Marla raised an eyebrow. That sounded like a dig. He shrugged. Interpret it however you want. She narrowed her eyes, but said nothing. Once she left, Royce carried his daughter inside, sat her on the couch, and handed her a cookie. You are allowed to feel things, he said gently. No matter what anyone says. The little girl looked up, blinking slowly. Even if I feel mad at Mommy? Royce paused, then nodded. Especially then. That night, he updated the wall in his garage. The web was growing. The timeline was tightening. And Marla? She was celebrating in plain sight. Royce stood there a moment longer, looking at her photo. Let her keep dancing, he muttered. The music is almost over. Harper had been one of Royce's most unconventional brothers-in-arms. No combat stripes. No sniper patch. But she had done more damage to enemy networks than half the teams on the ground. Now she sat in Royce's garage, surrounded by routers, drives, and dual-screen monitors, a hoodie pulled over her head as she typed with surgical precision. Her phone is weak, she said, smirking. She thinks backing up to iCloud is secure. Rookie move. Royce nodded, arms crossed. You got access? I got more than access, Harper replied. I am inside her texts, emails, notes app, even her hidden photo folder. Want to guess what Trent sends her at 2 a.m.? I do not need to see it, Royce said flatly. Just back it up. Harper plugged in a drive. Done. I also cloned Trent's phone last week from his office Wi-Fi. Got browser history, calls, even audio memos. You are not going to like what you hear, though. Royce turned slowly. Play it. A few clicks later, Trent's voice filled the room, brash, entitled, and dripping with arrogance. She really thinks I am going to marry her after this divorce clears? I would rather lease a damn condo with no carpet than deal with her full-time. He laughed. Someone else laughed with him. Another voice. A woman. Harper looked at Royce carefully. He is running a side game. Royce's expression never changed. Of course he is. Harper leaned back. You sure you want to keep letting this play out? Royce nodded once. She needs to walk into her own fire. That takes time. He stared at the screen. Dozens of files. Folders full of lies. Marla and Trent were getting reckless. The more they believed Royce was finished, the sloppier they became. It was not just revenge now. It was exposure. The downtown office of Ms. Deschamps smelled like lavender and steel. Walls lined with degrees. No fluff. No photos. Just facts. She leaned forward, fingers steepled, eyes locked on Royce. So let me get this straight. Your wife cheated. Lied about finances. Filed for divorce while hiding assets. And she does not know the child she's raising is not biologically hers. Royce nodded. Correct. Ms. Deschamps' lips twitched into a grin. And you let her finalize everything? I encouraged it. Her chair creaked as she leaned back. Most men walk in here broken. You are sitting on a nuclear weapon with a fuse half lit. I am not here to make noise, Royce said. I am here to end it right. She studied him, nodding slowly. We will do this by the book. Iron-tight legal footing. But when the time comes, we swing hard. Royce placed a folder on the desk, screenshots, voice memos, copies of bank activity. She flipped through them, nodding with increasing speed. We can challenge custody now. Not yet, Royce said. She raised an eyebrow. She needs to show her full hand. I want the lies documented. I want her so deep in the narrative. She cannot backpedal when the truth hits. Ms. Deschamps tapped her pen. You are setting a trap. A complete one. She grinned. Then you came to the right place. Before leaving, Royce stopped at the doorway. One more thing. Go on. If anything happens to me, you keep this going. Her expression hardened. If anything happens to you, I will bury them myself. Royce walked out into the sunlight. Calm. Measured. Everything was falling into place. Let Marla keep laughing. Let Trent keep grinning. They had no idea how far Royce was willing to go, and how close they already were to the edge. It started with a curiosity. A single charge on Marla's old debit card that Royce had forgotten even existed. $492, Harper said, pointing at the PDF on the screen. Labeled as consulting fees for a nonprofit. Looks boring until you zoom out. She brought up a second tab, an expense report from the nonprofit's public filings. That exact amount shows up here, too. Except they logged it as a community food grant. Royce leaned in. So she double-booked the money? Looks like it, Harper said. Now multiply that by 17. 17 transactions. Over 9 months. All logged under different names, consulting, creative services, travel stipends. and all funneled into two unregistered accounts. One tied to Marla, the other tied to a third-party business, which led right back to Trent Wallace. "This is not just cheating," Royce muttered. "This is theft." Harper nodded grimly. "If this gets reported officially, she will not just lose custody. She will lose her freedom." Royce stared at the screen. For a long time, he said nothing. Then, "Not yet. Let her keep taking. Keep digging." He knew how long con games worked. The mark always got greedy before the fall. Royce wanted everything on paper, signed, dated, in Marla's handwriting if possible. That night, she danced around the kitchen humming to a playlist. She had wine in one hand, her phone in the other. Every so often, she would burst into laughter at whatever Trent was texting. Royce sat at the table, quietly scrolling through a new message from Harper. She just transferred $5,000 to her private account. Description: event deposit. Same shell company. He closed the message, lifted his coffee cup. Marla looked over and winked. "Guess who just got invited to speak at the nonprofit board luncheon?" Royce smiled. "Hope you have something smart to say." She giggled. "Please. I own that room." She did not own anything anymore. Not even her freedom. The family-style Italian restaurant was dimly lit, the kind of place with cloth napkins and overpriced wine. Royce had reserved the corner booth and arrived early, already seated when Marla and their daughter walked in. She wore a navy blue blazer, subtle makeup, hair pinned back like she was interviewing for a second chance. "You look good," Royce said, standing to greet them. She smiled. "You clean up well too." Surprising. He ignored the dig. "Let's eat." The dinner felt like an awkward dance. Small talk, forced smiles, long silences. Their daughter was the only natural one at the table, coloring on a kid's menu while they danced around each other like polite enemies. Royce had chosen this place for one reason. It had weak Wi-Fi and open outlets. While Marla stepped away to take a call, he reached for her phone, left unlocked beside her purse, and plugged in a tiny drive beneath the table. 30 seconds. Just enough. He set it down again, picked up his water. She returned seconds later. "Sorry, that was the event coordinator." "All good," Royce said. "You excited? Are you kidding? The board's already talking about extending my contract. They love my energy." Royce gave a soft nod. "You always did know how to sell a room." She took the compliment like candy, smiling as she twirled her pasta. Back in the garage later that night, Harper pulled the cloned data from the drive. "Bingo," she said. "We have PDFs, emails, even voicemails." She talks about creative shifting of donor funds. In her own voice. Royce exhaled slowly. "Is it enough to bury her?" Harper's eyes did not blink. "It is enough to bury both of them." Royce stepped back, eyes locked on the photos pinned to the wall. Marla in her office, Trent outside his firm, the daughter sleeping peacefully in her bed. "This is not just revenge anymore," he said. "It is rescue." Marla's phone lit up at 2:13 a.m. Royce sat on the back porch, the device synced to his screen, watching her latest exchange with Trent unfold in real time. Trent, still shocked he is this stupid. "We are practically robbing him in daylight." Marla, "He thinks he is being noble. Let him. It makes the game more fun." Royce stared at the screen, jaw tight. He did not feel rage anymore, just ice. Cold, focused calculation. They were not just mocking him behind his back. They were performing. Trent had sent a photo earlier that week, Royce's own garage, while dropping off their daughter. He had smirked, captioned it, "Home of America's dumbest ex-husband." It had taken everything in Royce not to punch through the wall. But instead of reacting, he saved the image, printed it, and pinned it to the board beneath a new headline. Exhibit B, Digital Harassment. He was building a timeline. For the lawyer. For the court. For anyone who would need convincing when the day finally came. The messages only made it easier. Marla. After the sale, we vanish. New state. Fresh start. He can keep the scraps. Trent. Make sure the kid's locked in. We do not want him pulling a custody stunt. Royce smiled darkly. That line alone would devastate her case. Later that week, he sent Harper one instruction: scrub and package. I want a clean copy of the entire chain. She replied in minutes. Labeled, encrypted, admissible. Royce exhaled. His phone buzzed again, an email from Ms. Deschamps. Custody hearing date had been approved. Soon, it would begin. He looked down at the sleeping house. Let them dream. In just a few weeks, the entire city would wake up with the truth. Royce knew that men like Trent could not resist one thing: more. More money. More power. More praise. It was never enough, and that flaw was going to be his downfall. Using a fake identity, Royce worked with Harper to create a dummy LLC, Ridgepoint Ventures. Website, business license, social presence, all professionally crafted. Then came the email. Hi Trent, we're looking to expand our investment portfolio into North Carolina real estate. Your firm came highly recommended by a contact in Raleigh. We'd love to discuss a potential partnership. Trent responded within an hour. 2 days later, they met at a private co-working lounge uptown. Royce, clean-shaven and suited, wore wire-rimmed glasses and went by the name Cole Harding. Trent did not recognize him. Royce shook his hand firmly. Been following your firm. Your strategy's aggressive. I like that. Trent lit up. That's the only way to win in this market. The meeting lasted 45 minutes. Royce recorded every second. Trent boasted about off-the-books deals, claimed he could move assets quietly, bragged about clients who never asked where the money came from. Royce nodded, asked questions, took fake notes. Near the end, Trent leaned forward. Let me be blunt. I can clean money fast. I've done it for political families, trust fund kids, and people who needed to disappear. You bring the cash, I handle the rest. That line was golden. Royce handed him a fake business card. We'll be in touch. Back in the garage that night, Royce uploaded the recording to a secure drive labeled Fraud Primary. Harper called 5 minutes later. He's bragging about it now. Told a friend over text he just landed a ghost money client. Royce opened the file. Replayed Trent's words. Let the silence hang. This was not just about cheating anymore. This was organized deception, and Royce now had proof from the inside. The family courtroom smelled like old paper and cold coffee. Royce sat alone on the left bench, dressed in a dark navy suit, his tie straight, his posture quiet but composed. On the right, Marla, with a fresh blowout and pearl earrings, pretending confidence she did not actually own. She kept glancing over at him, looking for signs of weakness, regret, maybe anger. But he offered none. The clerk called their names. They stood. Custody hearing set for 21 days from now, the judge said after reviewing the motion. Mr. Maddox, your request for a psychological evaluation is on record. Any objections? Marla's lawyer, a stiff man named Connors, cleared his throat. We believe this is an unnecessary intrusion. Ms. Deschamps stood calmly. Your Honor, there is evidence of erratic behavior, emotional manipulation, and financial instability. We're not accusing. We are protecting the child. Royce remained still, watching, listening, calculating. The judge paused, then nodded. Request approved. Evaluation to be completed within 2 weeks. Temporary custody remains as is. Outside the courtroom, Marla caught up to Royce in the hallway. Are you seriously doing this? She hissed. After everything we agreed on? Royce looked at her, voice low and level. Everything you thought we agreed on. She stared, stunned. You lied. He leaned in. No. I listened. That was your mistake. She stepped back. This is going to get ugly. Royce smiled once, just enough. I'm counting on it. That night, he updated the timeline in his garage. Court motion, check. Psychological review, check. Digital evidence, check. Harper sent over a new file. Audio from Marla's phone call with Trent that morning. He's acting cold, like he's got something up his sleeve. Let him. We'll counter. Lawyers are just paid distractions. Royce sat back. Let them believe the game was even. Because the truth was, he already had the win in his pocket. It was the school's annual Dad and Donuts morning. Royce arrived early, dressed in jeans and a clean black button-up. He carried a box of jelly-filled pastries and wore the kind of smile that came from holding devastating secrets close to the chest. His daughter rushed up to hug him. He lifted her, kissed her forehead, and spun her around once before setting her down. "Double jelly?" she asked. "You know me," he said. "Triple sugar only on Thursdays." They sat at the corner table, laughing, eating, while other dads milled around awkwardly. That was when Julia approached. She was a teacher's aide, early 30s, quiet and sharp-eyed. She had once dated a friend of Trent's, briefly, and now avoided drama like it was a contagious disease. "Mr. Maddox," she said gently. Royce stood. "Call me Royce." She nodded, then lowered her voice. "Can we talk after this?" "Privately." He studied her face. "Is something wrong?" "I think there's something you need to see. It's about Marla and Trent." Later, in the staff room, she pulled up her phone. A video from a wedding 6 months earlier. Marla, drunk, laughing, hanging on Trent's arm in a way that was far too familiar, while still married to Royce. Someone recorded this. It's been floating in local groups. She was bragging that you were overseas and she had finally upgraded. Royce blinked slowly. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because your daughter is in my class. And you show up. You care. And I know how that man operates. I know what he did to my friend." Royce nodded once. "Thank you." That night, he added the video to the vault. It was not just proof of cheating, it was public character evidence. Marla thought she was walking away untouched. She was walking into a courtroom with footage, records, witnesses, and zero alibis. It was a Sunday afternoon. Mild sun, no wind, and nothing but the sound of birds outside the windows. Royce stood at the grill on the patio, flipping burgers like it was any normal day. Inside, Marla watched from the kitchen, pretending not to care. But she did. She had not seen him smile in weeks. Not a real one, anyway. Now, he was laughing with their daughter, sipping a cold drink, playing music. The man she thought was broken suddenly looked fine. Too fine. She stepped outside, holding a bowl of fruit salad. "You're in a good mood," she said casually. Royce glanced at her. "It's a good day. Must be nice to move on so fast." He smiled faintly. "Funny. I was about to say the same about you." She laughed, but it came out brittle. "I'm not moving on. I'm evolving." He handed her a plate. "Then enjoy the process." They sat together for the first time in weeks. Royce watched how she fidgeted. She tried to pretend everything was civil, even friendly, but her eyes darted too fast. Her phone buzzed constantly, and when she checked it, she always angled the screen away. Perfect. Let her think she still had the upper hand. "I've been thinking," Marla said suddenly. "Maybe we should freeze custody terms for now. Less paperwork." Royce wiped his hands on a towel. "You want less structure?" She nodded. "We both love her. Why complicate it?" He paused, let the silence breathe. Then, "Sure. We can talk about it next week." She smiled again, sweet and full of fake confidence. After she left, Royce walked into the garage and flipped open his laptop. Harper had already flagged a new document. A fake trust Marla had filed under their daughter's name, funneling donations to a personal account. "Keep smiling," Royce whispered. The net's almost closed. Rain tapped the windows that night as Royce dug through their old desktop computer, long forgotten in the upstairs office. Harper had asked him to check for anything predating the affair: old tax files, photos, voice memos. Anything that looked wrong. Most of it was bland. School emails, saved recipes, invoices from family vacations. Then he found the folder. Untitled_archive.zip, created 3 years ago. He copied it to an external drive, sent it to Harper, and waited. An hour later, she called. "Royce, you're going to want to sit down." "I'm already sitting. There are videos in here. Not just of Marla and Trent. Of Trent and others. A lot of others. Some young." Silence. "Teenagers?" Royce asked, his voice low. "Close. College age. Some might be legal, some not. But it's bad. And Marla's in the background of a few. She knew. She was there. Royce's jaw locked. How long have they been recording people? Looks like 2 years, minimum. This was no longer a custody fight. This was criminal territory. Back everything up, he said. Triple encrypt it. I want it safe and I want it timed. Harper paused. Time. I want that drive to go public the moment I say so. Or if anything happens to me. Copy that. Later, Royce sat in his daughter's room, watching her sleep. The innocence in her face. The calm in her breath. He knew then, this was not about divorce, or betrayal, or even revenge anymore. It was about erasing the threat completely. No mercy. No warnings. Only consequences. The next morning, he opened a new folder on his desktop. He named it Endgame. It started with a single email. Anonymous. Sent to the board of directors of the children's literacy nonprofit Marla had worked with for 4 years. Subject: review your books. Fast. Attached: for pages of transaction records, voice recordings, and a video of Marla joking about borrowing donor funds to float some real estate plans. Within 48 hours, the board held an emergency meeting. Within 72, Marla received a call. She was suspended pending investigation. She came home furious, slamming drawers, pacing the kitchen. They're accusing me of fraud. She snapped at Royce. He played dumb. That doesn't sound like you. I mean, yes, I moved some funds, but it was temporary. Trent said it was fine. Royce raised an eyebrow. Did you tell the board that? She froze. Of course not. It would drag him into it. He leaned on the counter. Maybe that's the problem. She glared at him. You think you're better than me now? Just because you play quiet. I don't think anything, he replied calmly. I just listen better than most. She stormed off, slamming the door to the bedroom like a teenager caught lying. Later that night, Royce met with Ms. Deschamps. She was already smiling before he sat down. The nonprofit thing? Nailed her. That was the crack in the armor. Her credibility's gone. Any court now will treat her like a liability. Custody odds? 85% your favor. If we get her evaluated emotionally, it hits 90. And the criminal side? That's your call. Royce nodded slowly. Let her sweat. Let her panic. Let her make mistakes while the walls closed in. Because the courtroom was coming. And for the first time, she would not have the last word. The twist drops. The courtroom air was still. Too still. Royce stood behind the polished oak table, flanked by Ms. Deschamps. Across from him, Marla sat stiff, clutching a thin silver pen like it was a weapon. The judge adjusted his glasses. This hearing is for preliminary custody review, prompted by concerns of psychological manipulation, financial misconduct, and potential deception regarding parental status. Marla's lawyer rose first. Your Honor, this is absurd. Ms. Maddox has been the child's mother since birth. She has never wavered in her care. Ms. Deschamps cut in smoothly. Let us not confuse caregiving with biological truth. The judge looked to Royce. You submitted DNA evidence? Royce stepped forward. Yes, Your Honor. The clerk handed over 2 sealed envelopes, one from the lab, the other from Royce's attorney. Silence spread like a storm cloud. The judge opened the report and read it once, then twice. He leaned forward. The DNA test confirms Mr. Maddox is not the biological father. However, neither is Ms. Marla Maddox. Gasps echoed. Marla jerked forward. What? The judge held up a hand. The child was conceived via embryo adoption. The lab confirmed that neither party shares biological DNA. Marla blinked fast, her voice cracking. What are you saying? That she's not mine. Royce turned to her, voice calm but razor sharp. You never carried her DNA. You were pregnant. But she came from a donated embryo. I signed the paperwork. You were not in the mental state to make the call. So I made it. For us. She stared at him, mouth open, shock warping her face. You're lying. The documents are there, Ms. Deschamps added. With your initials. Medical records. Embryo clinic logs. Marla's hands trembled. Royce stepped closer. You cheated. You stole. You lied. And now, you finally know what it feels like to lose something that never truly belonged to you. The courtroom emptied in slow waves. Marla stayed seated, stunned into silence, her hands flat on the table as if holding herself steady. Royce walked past her, stopped, then leaned down just enough for her to hear. You were never supposed to know like this. But you made your choice. Her eyes were glassy. You lied to me. He did not blink. I protected our daughter from what you were becoming. Outside, rain hit the pavement as Royce and Ms. Deschamps stepped into the covered walkway. She did not even flinch at the part about fraud, Deschamps muttered. All she heard was the part about not being the mother. That is who she is, Royce said. Possession, not love. Later that night, Harper called. She's already spiraling, she said. Multiple texts to Trent. 2 missed calls to the clinic. She even tried reaching the old OB. You really dropped the nuke. She forgot the adoption even happened, Royce replied. I doubt she ever fully understood it. She wanted a baby, not a process. He stood at the upstairs window, watching headlights pass in the distance. She was never a mother. She just liked the title. The next morning, Marla arrived at his door without warning. Eyes red, makeup smeared, a folder clutched in her hand. You stole her from me, she said, voice hollow. Royce took the folder, opened it. Inside, old ultrasound prints, pregnancy journaling, a hospital wristband. She is mine, she whispered. I carried her. I fed her. I named her. He handed it back. You also abandoned her the moment you let Trent into our home. Marla's shoulders crumpled. Please, let me fix it. Royce shook his head once. You broke it the day you stopped being a mother and started being a manipulator. He closed the door, and for the first time, she had no words left to weaponize. The next 48 hours unfolded like a storm behind locked windows. Marla filed an emergency motion to pause custody changes. Denied. She requested mediation. Denied. Then came the second blow. Harper had tracked the shell company routing donation funds from the nonprofit straight into an account under Marla's name. With the forensic accountant's report attached, Ms. Deschamps submitted a motion for criminal investigation. Now the game had changed. Roy sat across from Harper in a quiet booth at a small downtown diner. His coffee untouched. Her laptop open between them. She is scrambling, Harper said. You cut off her legal legs, and she's trying to crawl out of it emotionally. Online posts. Playing victim. She always needed an audience, Royce said. But now she has no script. Harper leaned in. You could press charges now. Fully. No delays. Royce exhaled. She deserves it. But, he looked out the window. She's still the woman who held my daughter before I did. Even if she did it for the wrong reasons. Harper nodded slowly. So what do you want? Royce picked up his cup. I want her exposed. Not destroyed. I want her to live in what she made. The next day, Marla was summoned by the nonprofit board. This time, not for suspension, but for termination. They sent an email, a letter, and one final blow, a public statement. Ms. Maddox has been removed pending financial misconduct. We stand by ethical responsibility and transparency. By afternoon, social media caught wind. People started talking. Screenshots, comments, judgments. At home, Royce stood over the stove, cooking dinner while his daughter colored at the table. She hummed to herself, untouched by the storm. He watched her, then smiled softly. One parent was losing everything. The other was finally earning everything that mattered. Marla had never looked smaller. Royce watched the live stream of the nonprofit board's emergency press conference. He did not need to be there in person. Everything was going as planned. We have opened our books to an independent auditor, the board chair said. And yes, misappropriated funds were found, tied directly to a former senior liaison, Marla Maddox. He paused dramatically. Cameras clicked. Phones buzzed. Legal action is pending. Cut. Back in the garage, Royce turned off the screen and stood in silence. He could already picture Marla's reaction, scrambling, calling Trent, blaming everyone but herself. She never thought it would get this far. Harper called. She's in full meltdown. Just posted some cryptic story on her social media. Everyone turns on you when they cannot use you anymore. Royce smirked. Textbook. Want me to respond? No. Let the public do it. Across town, Marla sat in her car outside Trent's office. Her hands were shaking. She had tried calling him 7 times. No answer. Finally, she marched inside. Trent, she said, bursting through the door. He looked up from his desk, calm, fake smile in place. Hey, heard you had a rough morning. She stared at him. You knew they were looking into me. Why did you not say anything? Trent leaned back, interlaced his fingers. Because I am not the one who moved the funds. You were. You told me to do it. I suggested options. You made choices. Her jaw clenched. Are you serious right now? He nodded slowly. Very. Marla's voice cracked. I need help. Trent looked at his watch. I have a meeting in 10 minutes. And just like that, she realized something far worse than losing public image. She had never been in control of this game. She was just a piece Trent had used to hide his own sins. And now, she was too radioactive to protect. Royce had expected it eventually. Men like Trent never stop with one. Cheating on Marla was not a twist. It was a certainty. What surprised Royce was who the other woman was. Her name was Lindsay Myers, 27, administrative manager at Wallace Property Group. Sharp, ambitious, and, as Harper had uncovered, bitterly scorned. They met in a quiet diner booth on a rainy Thursday. Lindsay sat across from Royce, arms crossed, phone in hand. I want you to know, she said, I am not doing this because I like you. I am doing this because I hate him. That works for me, Royce replied. She placed her phone on the table. I have everything. Voice memos, screenshots, wire transfers. He used me for 2 years. Told me Marla was just a cover while he built the empire. And you believed him? I was 25, dumb, and in love. Royce nodded. What changed? He tried to pin a fraudulent sale on me. Told a buyer I signed off on a condo flip when I never touched it. If the IRS digs deep, I get roasted. Royce leaned in. So what do you want? I want immunity. And I want him burned. You will get both, he said. But I need you to testify. When the time comes. She stared at him for a beat. Deal. Back at home, Royce opened a new case file. Labeled it, LW Testimony. Subpoena prep. He added it to the vault with everything else. One more piece on the board. One more person who wanted Trent to fall. He stood, exhaled slowly, and looked out into the backyard where his daughter played in the leaves. She laughed, carefree, pure. Royce clenched his fist softly. No one like Trent would ever touch her future again. The first time Royce heard Trent's name whispered in a negative light was at a coffee shop near the courthouse. 2 lawyers sat in the booth behind him, not realizing who he was. I heard Wallace is cooked, one said. Whistleblower from inside the firm. Got files, names, proof. He always looked too clean, the other replied. Guys like that do not keep their hands clean that long. Royce sipped his black coffee, said nothing, but smiled into his cup. That whisper was the beginning. By the end of the week, it had grown into murmurs. LinkedIn rumors. Anonymous Reddit posts from former employees sharing horror stories. Intimidation, unpaid overtime, shady shell companies. Royce had not posted any of it. He did not need to. Lindsay had leaked just enough to light the fuse. And now, every time Trent tried to schedule a client meeting, someone canceled. Every time he spoke at an event, someone dropped out. Harper tracked it all. Your boy's reputation is bleeding. Good, Royce said. Keep letting it leak. Slow. Marla called twice that week. Once to beg, once to threaten. He answered neither. Instead, he met with Ms. Deschamps and handed over the compiled digital files. She flipped through the pages. This is enough to indict him 6 ways before lunch. I want him exposed first, Royce said. Then destroyed. She nodded. So we go slow. Humiliation first, prosecution second. That weekend, Trent walked into his office and found an envelope on his desk. No return address. Inside, a screenshot of his fake trust fund. Another of the condo scam. Written across the top in red marker. Tick-tock. His hand shook. He looked around the room, for cameras, for bugs. He was not paranoid. He was finally being watched. It had been 3 weeks since the courtroom twist. Marla had gone silent on social media, but offline she was unhinged, trying to regain control, fighting the system, dragging her lawyer through frantic last-minute calls. Now, in courtroom 4B, she sat stone-faced as Royce walked in. Their daughter's custody hearing was minutes from starting. Ms. Deschamps leaned over. She filed a countersuit this morning. Emergency petition claiming emotional abuse. Royce raised an eyebrow. Did she back it with anything? A shaky affidavit and 2 cherry-picked texts. Weak. The bailiff called them to order. The judge, an older woman with sharp glasses and no tolerance for games, reviewed the documents quietly. Then she spoke. I see an extensive pattern of instability from the mother. Unreported accounts. Documented emotional episodes. Misuse of funds. She turned to Marla. Did you knowingly submit forged trust documentation to this court? Marla fumbled. I did not forge anything. I was misled by Trent. Mr. Wallace is not on trial here today. You are. Royce remained silent. Controlled. The judge's voice never rose, but her words cut deeper than any shout. Temporary full custody is awarded to Mr. Maddox, pending final ruling. Supervised visitation for the mother, reviewed monthly. Marla gasped. This is insane. I carried that child. The judge didn't blink. And you weaponized that fact until it cost you everything. Outside, Marla tried to chase Royce down the steps. You're ruining me. He stopped, looked her straight in the eyes. No, you did that the second you called her leverage. Then he walked away. Calm. Final. Behind him, Marla stood in the cold wind, clutching her bag like it could hold together everything she had just lost. The annual donor gala was supposed to be Trent's redemption. He arrived alone, dressed in a custom tux, smile polished, handshake sharp. Cameras flashed as he entered the luxury ballroom, pretending nothing was falling apart behind the scenes. But Royce was already there. Not as a guest, not as a threat, just seated quietly at the back, beside Harper, who was pretending to be his assistant. This is the kind of event he thinks will save his reputation, she whispered. He's about to learn reputation isn't bulletproof, Royce replied. The evening moved fast. Small talk, champagne, a live jazz trio. Then came the awards. As Trent took the stage to present a fabricated community service initiative, someone backstage clicked play. The projector behind him flickered. Static, then sound. I can clean money fast. I've done it before. Trent froze. The crowd turned as a grainy video played of him at the business pitch meeting with Royce. Audio crystal clear, face fully visible. You bring the cash. I handle the rest. Quiet. No paper trails. Murmurs turned to gasps. Phones came out. A ripple of disbelief passed through the room. Trent tried to stop it. This is fake. This is AI or something. But the video kept rolling. Then another clip, his text to Lindsay, his voice memo mocking Marla. And finally, a spreadsheet showing financial ties between him and multiple donor accounts. He stepped back from the mic. Security walked on stage. Someone in the crowd shouted, Hey Trent, TikTok, huh? Laughter, tension, chaos. Royce stood quietly and left before anyone could see his face. Outside, the night air was cool. Harper followed, grinning. Public. Humiliating. And 100% legal. Royce nodded. Now he knows what it feels like. The next morning, Royce received a message from an old contact, Detective Claire Ross. They had worked a missing persons case together back in his enlisted days. Now, she worked white-collar crimes. You sure you want this to move forward? She asked over the phone. Yes, Royce said. Everything is in the vault. I'm ready. He sent her the master folder. Fake trusts, tax fraud files, wiretap audio, witness statements, including Lindsay's. Within 2 hours, a warrant was approved. By noon, Royce sat in his truck, parked outside Wallace Property Group. when the squad cars pulled up. He watched as Trent was escorted out in cuffs, his face hard, jaw clenched. Cameras were already waiting. "Mr. Wallace, are you being charged with embezzlement? Is it true you laundered nonprofit funds?" Trent said nothing, not a word. Royce watched until the door slammed behind him. Back home, his daughter ran to greet him. "Daddy, you're late." He scooped her up and held her tight. "No more late days," he said. That night, Marla called. She sounded tired, smaller. "You really went through with it," she said. "You left me no choice." "You hate me." "I don't hate you," Royce said. "I just finally saw you for who you are." She was quiet. "I'm going to try to get help. Maybe it's too late, but I hope you mean that." Click. He placed the phone down, then turned off the lights. The house was quiet. Not empty. Not broken. Just finally peaceful. Marla returned to the house 2 days later. The place was cold, the floors echoing under her heels. Every room looked the same, but nothing felt like it belonged to her anymore. She walked into the nursery, now a guest room. The crib gone, walls repainted. She stood there for a long time, then saw it, on the dresser. A photo. Royce holding their daughter on his shoulders, both smiling. A note underneath in his handwriting. She is safe. With her real parent. Legally. Marla clutched the frame and sat on the edge of the bed. No cameras. No audience. Just her and the truth. She had lost. Not because she was caught. Because she had underestimated the man who loved too deeply. And who, when betrayed, did not yell or beg. He just waited. Watched. Then took everything back. Slowly. Silently. Exactly how he had learned on the battlefield. Lindsay sat at the end of the conference table, hands clasped, eyes steady. A recorder blinked softly in the center of the table, capturing every word. Royce sat across from her, silent. Ms. Deschamps stood nearby, legal pad in hand. "This is my full statement," Lindsay began. "Trent Wallace used me. Professionally. Personally. Illegally." She pulled out a flash drive and slid it forward. "This contains phone calls, text messages, and screenshots going back 18 months. Conversations about money laundering, property flipping, and one conversation about setting up a shell company using my name." Royce nodded once. "Why now?" "Because he said he would throw me under the bus," Lindsay said. "And because he told Marla the same lie he told me. That she was different. That she mattered." She glanced up. "None of us mattered." Ms. Deschamps leaned in. "You are willing to testify?" "Under oath," Lindsay said. "He thinks he is smarter than the law. That kind of man never prepares for women who stop being scared." Royce stood. "You did the right thing." Lindsay scoffed. "Too late for right. But maybe not too late for the truth." The confession was filed the same day. The state prosecution office took interest immediately. What had been a local case was now moving toward federal fraud charges. Back home, Royce tucked his daughter into bed, brushing her hair back gently. "Daddy?" she asked sleepily. "Yeah." "Did you stop the bad people?" He smiled softly. "They stopped themselves. I just made sure they could not hurt us again." She nodded and drifted off. Outside, the stars were clear. Quiet. Still. But Royce knew what was coming next. Final judgment. For all of them. The news broke quietly at first, a few lines on a legal blog. But by midday, it was everywhere. Local real estate mogul facing federal fraud charges, Trent Wallace subpoenaed for testimony in multi-state investigation. Whistleblower evidence suggests years of embezzlement. Coercion. Royce read it from the diner down the block, sipping coffee in silence. Harper slid into the booth beside him. "Marla's been subpoenaed too, as a material witness." He nodded. "She's in it now?" "Deep." She lawyered up fast. She always was good at self-preservation. Trent, meanwhile, was spiraling. 3 associates had walked. His firm's office had gone dark. The company website quietly deactivated. But the biggest blow came at a local panel event, where he had been scheduled to speak. He arrived suited, tired, eyes sunken. As he stepped onto the stage, 2 plainclothes officers approached. The room fell silent. Mr. Wallace, one said, you are under order to appear before the grand jury in Raleigh. Trent stared. This is harassment. This is political. But they were already walking him out. Marla stood in the lobby, pale and shaking. Her eyes met Royce's across the room. He gave her a nod. Not of anger, not of triumph, but of truth. This was always going to happen. She just never thought it would happen in front of everyone. 2 weeks later, Royce stood behind a podium of his own. It was not a courtroom, not a gala, just a school auditorium for Veterans Day. His daughter sat in the front row, swinging her feet as the principal introduced him. And now, we welcome a parent, a veteran, and a man who has quietly inspired our entire school community. Applause. Light. Genuine. Royce stepped up to the mic. Thank you, he began. I used to think strength was about what you could carry, or what you could survive. But real strength is knowing when to put down the weight that is destroying you. He paused, scanned the room, saw real faces, real stories. He went on. I want my daughter to grow up in a world where silence is not mistaken for weakness, where kindness is not a license for abuse, and where those who deceive eventually answer to something bigger than ego. There was no bitterness in his voice, just gravity. I was betrayed, lied to, taken for granted. But I do not stand here broken. I stand here rebuilt, stronger, smarter, and free. Applause again, louder this time. He stepped down, hugged his daughter, and felt, for the first time in months, light. At exactly 9 p.m., Harper flipped the switch. The video montage uploaded across platforms, anonymously, professionally. Not petty, not revenge porn, just truth. Clips of Trent confessing, Marla's voice agreeing, financial documents, fraudulent accounts, hidden cameras from the business pitch. Within minutes, it hit Reddit, YouTube, Twitter, news outlets, podcasts. The title said it all. How a soldier let his wife finalize divorce, then revealed the child she raised wasn't hers. It went viral overnight. Comments flooded in. This is a movie script. He played chess while they played checkers. She lost everything because she had no idea who she was messing with. Trent released a statement the next morning. It was 6 lines of denial. Marla stayed silent. Royce. He walked his daughter to school, then headed to a breakfast meeting with a veteran outreach center. I saw the video, the director said. We'd be honored to have you speak next month. Royce smiled. I'd be honored. He did not need to scream his truth. The world had finally heard it on its own. And the sound of their silence now? That was the loudest victory of all. Marla sat across from Royce in the mediation room, dressed in gray, her face bare, eyes worn down by weeks of press, court, and consequence. She had not spoken to Trent in 12 days. Now, with her legal team behind her and Royce seated in silence, the final financial settlement was on the table. Ms. Deschamps pushed a document forward. We are not here to rehash what happened. We are here to end it. Marla's voice was low. You want full control of the house, the accounts, everything? Royce finally looked up. No, he said. I want control of what you tried to burn down. He leaned forward, calm but unwavering. You used our daughter like a bargaining chip. You faked trust funds, stole donor money, and tried to erase me with a smile. So no, I do not want control. I want protection. For her. Marla swallowed hard. I was scared. You were greedy, he replied. She signed the papers without another word. Afterward, in the hallway, she caught up to him. Do you ever think we could have fixed it? Royce paused. You cannot fix something you were never honest about in the first place. He walked away. She did not follow. The knock on Trent's condo door came at 6:15 a.m. 3 agents. Badges shown. Laptops seized. Bank accounts frozen. He had known it was coming, but he still answered in gym shorts and denial. You're making a mistake, he said. I am cooperating. The lead agent flipped through a thick manila file. This cooperation includes 37 instances of false filings, shell account transfers, and 2 separate undeclared offshore assets. Trent blinked. I can explain. We are sure you can. Save it for the federal hearing. News vans showed up within the hour. Royce stood at a distance, watching the man who once mocked him in private, now forced to cover his face in public. Harper sent him a single text. Game. Set. Sentence incoming. The final custody ruling came with little fanfare. The courtroom was quiet. Royce stood alone this time. Marla had waived her appearance, letting her lawyer speak for her. The court finds, the judge said clearly, that Mr. Royce Maddox shall be granted full and permanent custody of the minor child. Ms. Marla Maddox may file for supervised visitation pending psychological clearance and future review. Royce's breath caught in his chest. He had been holding it for months. He nodded once. Thank you, Your Honor. The gavel dropped, and for the first time, there was nothing left for Marla to take. Outside, he called Ms. Deschamps. It is done, he said. Good, she replied. Now go be a father. 3 days later, Royce received an unexpected call from Trent's attorney. A private request. He wants to speak with you. Royce hesitated, then agreed. They met in the visitation room at the county holding facility. Royce walked in, sat down. Trent looked thinner, older, defeated. You came, Trent said. I came to hear it, Royce replied. She is not mine, Trent said quietly. I know that now. You knew that from the start, Royce corrected. You just never cared. Trent sighed. I tried to be the man she needed. No, Royce said. You were the man she used. Same as me. Trent looked away. I lost everything. Royce stood up. You never had anything to lose. He turned to leave. She still talks about you, Trent said behind him. The little girl. Royce stopped. Look back. She is not yours to talk about. He walked out without another word. And this time, it was Trent left sitting alone, behind the glass, with nothing but silence. A month later, Royce stood on a stage again, this time at a citywide fatherhood conference. He had been invited after the viral video reached national veterans groups and men's wellness organizations. The auditorium buzzed with quiet anticipation. Reporters, social workers, family law advocates, even teenagers sat waiting to hear from the soldier who exposed it all without firing a shot. Royce looked out at the crowd, then leaned into the mic. I did not come here to talk about infidelity, he began, or lawsuits, or revenge. He paused. I came here to talk about showing up. He paced slowly, calmly. I thought being a man meant being the provider, the protector, the soldier. I was wrong. Being a man, being a father, is about something else entirely. He looked to the front row, where his daughter sat next to Harper, smiling. It is about being present. Even when they lie, even when they betray, even when the system breaks your heart. He closed his notebook. Revenge did not give me peace. My daughter did. Truth did. Walking away from rage, that gave me my life back. He stepped down to a standing ovation, not because he destroyed anyone, but because he had not let it destroy him. On a gray morning, a plain white envelope arrived at Royce's mailbox. No stamp, no return address. Hand-delivered. He opened it in the garage, eyes scanning each line slowly. Royce, I do not expect forgiveness. I do not expect anything. I just wanted to say I finally got help. I finally looked in the mirror and saw what I had become. I was broken long before I betrayed you. You were just the one strong enough to survive it. Tell her. I hope she forgets me. She deserves that peace. Marla Royce folded the letter carefully. He did not cry. He did not smile. He just stood still. Then he walked outside, into the soft spring breeze, where his daughter ran barefoot through the grass. He tore the letter once, then twice, then let the wind carry the pieces away. Harper called from D.C. You're not going to believe this, she said. A film producer reached out to me. They want to buy the rights. Royce sighed. Of course they do. Think about it, she said. You control the story. You protect your daughter. We package it the right way. No faces, no names, just truth. He hesitated. It feels dirty. It is not dirty if you own it, Harper said. They already told your story for months. You might as well make sure the right version lives longer. Royce looked over at the fridge, where a drawing from his daughter hung with magnets. It said, "Me and Daddy. Forever team." He smiled. Fine. But no glamour. No drama. Just what happened. Harper laughed. Too late. What happened was drama. That weekend, Royce sat on the porch with his daughter. The sun was setting, and fireflies blinked in the distance. She leaned against his arm. Daddy. Yeah, baby. Why do people lie? He thought for a second, then answered honestly. Because they are afraid of what happens when they tell the truth. She nodded. But you never lied. I did not always tell everything. But I never lied to you. She looked up. You're my real dad, right? He smiled. I am the one who held your hand since the beginning. The one who will hold it forever. That's all that matters. She hugged him tight. And in that moment, under the golden sky, Royce felt something deeper than revenge. Deeper than justice. He felt complete. The sun rose slow on the morning of her birthday. Royce had set everything up before she woke. Streamers, pancakes, her favorite stuffed animals lined on the table like guests. A single pink balloon floated over her chair. On it, written in marker, "You are loved." She came running out in mismatched socks, her hair wild, a grin stretching across her face. "Happy birthday, Peanut," Royce said, scooping her into a hug so tight it made her giggle. He made no speeches, no mentions of the past. Today was for her. Later, after cake and games, she sat on the porch with frosting still on her cheek, holding a small box he had handed her. Inside, a locket. Silver. Simple. One side had her picture. The other, a note etched in tiny script. Safe. Always. Forever. She touched it like it was fragile. Can I wear it every day? You better, he said, smiling. They watched the sun fall low together, silence between them. No words needed. Because even though everything had changed, names, lives, futures, this part had not. The love, the protection, the bond that had never been about blood, but about presence. And across town, Marla sat alone in a therapy office, holding a photo of the child she no longer saw. Trent awaited formal sentencing, lawyers scrambling for deals. And no one was talking about them anymore. Because the world had moved on. And the spotlight now belonged to what had survived, not what had crumbled. 6 months later, Royce stood outside a modest building with his daughter, holding her hand. Above the door, Maddox Foundation, for fathers who stayed. Inside were shelves lined with books, photos, and handwritten notes from other single dads who had survived betrayal, false accusations, and emotional destruction, without becoming the villain. Royce had opened the center quietly. No media, no cameras, just community. One of the counselors walked up. You sure you want your name on the building? Royce looked around. No, but I want hers to know what it meant. He looked down at his daughter, who was already talking to another little girl inside, laughing like she had never seen pain. And in that moment, he realized his greatest revenge was not exposing anyone. It was becoming someone worth remembering. No headlines, no drama, just a legacy that would live longer than any secret ever could. And now, a question just for you. If it were you, if someone shattered your home and underestimated your silence, would you burn them to the ground? Or build something that outlives their lies? Tell us in the comments below. Where are you watching from? We read every single one. And if this story hit you hard, if it made you feel, rage, cry, or heal, tap that like button gently but firmly, just like Royce handled his revenge. Subscribe so you do not miss the next jaw-dropping, heart-hitting thriller revenge saga we are already working on. Until next time, take care of your heart, and never ignore the quiet ones. They are usually the ones planning the most unforgettable ending. The end. Story written with precision. Felt with fire.